The metal city of Varine was quiet that night. Only the wind moved, blowing dust across the silver streets. Cold blue lights shone from tall alien towers, but the lower levels were dark and empty, filled with trash and broken machines. It was a place no one cared about. In that darkness, 3 alien soldiers walked quickly. They carried something wrapped in a thin silver sheet. It was very light, almost weightless, and one of the soldiers kept glancing around nervously. "Move fast," the leader whispered. "No one must see us." The sheet made a soft sound as it moved, like a small body shifting inside. The soldiers did not look at it. They acted as if they carried nothing important. To them, it was trash. Something to throw away and forget. But inside the silver sheet was a paralyzed alien girl, no older than 8. Her name, unknown to the soldiers, was Leary. Her eyes were open, but she could not move her hands, her legs, or even her neck. Only her breathing showed she was alive. One soldier muttered, "Why didn't they finish her earlier? Why bring her here?" "Orders," the leader said. "She is defective, useless. The royal line must stay perfect." The word royal floated in the air, heavy and dangerous. The soldiers fell silent. None of them wanted to anger the rulers. They only wanted to finish the job and leave. They reached the waste zone, a deep pit full of metal scraps, broken wires, and old machines. Cold air rose from the pit, and the lights above flickered weakly. "Throw it," the leader ordered. The youngest soldier hesitated. "She's still breathing." "That does not matter," the leader said. "Throw it." With one rough push, the child fell into the trash pit. Metal groaned and shifted around her small body. The soldiers did not look down. They turned and walked away, their footsteps fading into the silent night. Far above, on a narrow walkway, a human engineer named Mark Hawley walked alone. He carried a small flashlight and a bag of tools. Someone had stolen parts from his workshop again, and he had spent hours searching the lower levels. Mark was tired. He had lived on Varine for 3 years, but he still felt like a stranger. The aliens ignored humans most of the time. They only spoke to him when they needed repairs. As Mark passed near the waste zone, he paused. He heard something. A tiny sound. A soft, weak breath. Not wind, not metal. Something alive. He frowned. "Hello, anyone here?" No answer. He stepped closer. His flashlight shone on piles of broken machines and wires. Everything seemed dead and still. But then he noticed it, a small glowing shape under the metal scraps. Mark felt his heart jump. Is someone trapped? He climbed down carefully, moving the scrap aside. A piece of metal slid away, revealing a thin silver sheet. And under it, a small alien girl with glowing blue skin and wide, terrified eyes. Mark froze. She was barely breathing. Her face was dirty. Her body was still, completely still, like she was made of glass. But her eyes were alive, begging for help. Mark whispered, "Oh no. What happened to you?" He touched her arm gently, and at that moment, something strange happened. Symbols lit up under her skin-soft glowing lines. Like a message, Mark pulled his hand back, shocked. What are you?" The girl blinked slowly, a tear forming in the corner of her eye. Mark looked up. The towers above were cold and silent. But he felt it in his bones. Someone had thrown her away on purpose. And if they found out he was here, he might be in danger too. But Mark did not move away. He lifted her carefully into his arms, holding her like something precious. "Don't worry," he whispered. "I won't leave you here." Above them, unseen eyes watched Mark from the shadows. Someone knew the girl was missing. Someone would come looking. Mark carried the small paralyzed alien girl through the silent lower streets of Varine. Her body was cold and fragile in his arms, like she could break from even a soft touch. The glowing symbols on her skin faded slowly, but he could still see faint blue light under her thin wrists. He tried talking to her as he walked. "Can you hear me? I'm taking you somewhere safe." Her eyes blinked once. She could not move her head, but Mark felt she understood him. She was trying very hard to stay awake. Snow like dust fell from the old pipes above as Mark reached his hidden workshop. He lived inside an old repair station that smelled of oil and warm metal. Most aliens never came near it. It was too small, too dirty, too human. Mark pushed the door open with his shoulder and hurried inside. He placed the girl gently on a padded table where he normally repaired damaged machines. Tonight, he was not repairing a machine. He was trying to save a life. The girl stared up at him with wide, silent eyes. "It's okay," Mark whispered, kneeling beside her. "You're safe now." He reached for a small scanner he used for injured animals. As he touched her arm, she flinched weakly. The glowing lines on her skin brightened for a second, reacting again to his touch. Mark frowned. "Why does your skin do that?" He scanned her. The scanner beeped strangely, confused by her energy signals. Mark checked the screen. Severe nerve damage. Total body paralysis. Weak breathing. Unknown bioenergy. She must have been like this for a long time. Mark whispered. Why would anyone abandon her like trash? He prepared warm cloths and cleaned the dirt from her face and hands. She didn't move, but her breathing grew a little steadier. When Mark placed a small cup of water near her lips, she tried to speak. Only a weak sound came out. A soft, broken whisper. "Huh." Mark leaned closer. "What is it? What are you trying to say?" The girl tried again. Huh. But her voice was too faint. Her throat trembled. Tears pooled in her eyes from the effort. She wanted to speak, but she couldn't. Not yet. Mark placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "It's okay. Don't push yourself. We'll try later." Her eyes closed for a moment, tired. She had no strength left to fight her own silence. Hours passed. Mark stayed awake by her side, watching her breathing carefully. Several times he noticed her skin glowing softly again. The symbols changed shape, almost like they were moving. He touched one with his finger, curious. The symbol lit up brighter. The girl blinked. Scared. Mark quickly pulled his hand back. Sorry. I didn't mean to frighten you." She stared at him, then blinked slowly, as if forgiving him. Mark sighed. "I should give you a name. I can't just call you girl." He looked at her glowing skin, her gentle eyes, her quiet presence. "Leary," he said softly. "That sounds right, Leary." To his surprise, the girl's eyes widened a little. A faint tremble touched her fingertips, as if her body recognized the sound. "You like it?" Mark asked. Her eyes blinked again, this time slower, calmer. "Leary it is." Just then, Mark heard footsteps outside. Heavy ones. Slow ones. Someone was near his workshop. He turned off the lights quickly and covered Leary with a wide blanket. Hiding the glow of her skin. The footsteps stopped right outside the door. Mark held his breath. Deep alien voice spoke from outside. "Human. Open the door. We know someone entered the waste zone tonight." Mark froze, his heart beat fast. If they searched his workshop, they would find Leary, and he had no idea what they would do to her. Or to him. Outside, the doorknob rattled. They were trying to open it. The door rattled again. Mark stood completely still, his hand hovering over the workshop's light switch. Outside, the heavy footsteps scraped against the metal floor. Someone large. Someone armed. "Human," the deep voice repeated, calm but cold. "Open the door." Mark swallowed hard. His heart pounded so loudly he felt sure the stranger could hear it. In the corner of the room, the small paralyzed girl Leary lay under the blanket, her faint blue glow hidden, but not gone. If they came inside, they would see her. And then, Mark did not want to imagine what would happen. He forced his voice to stay steady. "The workshop is closed. Come tomorrow." Silence. Then the strange voice spoke again, lower this time. "We are searching for a discarded item. It was lost in the waste zone." Mark's hand tightened around a screwdriver. He suddenly understood they were looking for her. The discarded item was a living child. "We will return," the voice said. Footsteps moved away. Slow, heavy, patient like hunters leaving only to circle back later. Mark waited 30 long seconds before letting out a shaky breath. He locked the door, pulled the curtains tighter, and slowly walked back to Leary. When he lifted the blanket, she stared up at him, terrified. Her eyes trembled. Her breathing became shallow and fast. Hey, Mark whispered, kneeling beside her. "It's okay. They're gone. I won't let them take you." Leary blinked weakly. Tears rolled down the sides of her face. She was completely helpless, but her eyes were full of fear, a fear too old for a young girl. Mark wiped her tears gently. "I promise, you're safe with me." Hours passed. Mark kept checking the windows, expecting the soldiers to return. Leary drifted in and out of sleep, her glowing symbols fading and brightening like slow breaths as the first dim light of morning touched the lower city. Someone knocked very softly on Mark's back door, the one only a few trusted people knew about. Mark grabbed a metal wrench and approached the door carefully. "Who is it?" he whispered. "Mark. Open." "It's me." Mark relaxed a little. He knew the voice. It belonged to old Darren, a retired alien mechanic who lived 2 streets away. Darren had always been kind to Mark, unlike most locals. Mark opened the door just a crack. Darren squeezed inside quickly and shut it behind him. His eyes were wide with fear. "Lock it," Darren whispered. "Now," Mark did. "What's going on?" Mark asked. Darren took a shaky breath. "Human. Someone saw you last night near the waste zone. They believe you found something." Mark's eyes darted to Leary, still lying on the table. He answered quietly, "I found a child." Darren froze. His face went pale. "A child? A living one?" "Yes," Mark said. "She couldn't move. They just threw her away like some broken machine." "Why?" Darren stepped closer. When he saw Leary's small, glowing form, his entire body tensed. "Oh no," he whispered. No. What? What is it?" Mark asked. Darren looked at Mark with trembling eyes. "She is not just any child. She is royal-born." Mark blinked. "Royal-born?" Darren nodded. "Her skin markings, the symbols, they belong to the old royal bloodline. A rare line, powerful, protected by ancient law." His voice darkened. "But only if the child is perfect." Mark felt anger rise in him. "They threw her away because she is paralyzed?" Darren nodded slowly. "Yes, a child born with a broken body brings shame. They hide such children. They pretend they never existed." Mark looked at Leary, so small, so helpless, so silent. Darren whispered, "The rulers want her erased. If she lives, she threatens everything. That is why soldiers hunt her." Mark shook his head. "They can't have her." Darren stared at him. "Then you must run, now." Mark glanced at Leary. She blinked, watching them both with tired eyes. She could not speak. She could not stand, and yet the glowing symbols under her skin brightened softly, like a quiet call for help. "Run?" Mark repeated. "Yes," Darren whispered. "The city is searching. Once they find her, they will destroy anyone who helped." Mark clenched his fists. He made his decision. "No," he said softly. "I'm not running." Darren stared at him in disbelief. Mark looked at Leary and whispered, "I'm protecting her." Outside, faint voices echoed through the shadows. The hunt had already begun. The metal streets outside Mark's workshop were no longer quiet. Voices echoed through the lower levels, sharp, commanding voices. Heavy boots hit the ground in fast rhythm. Search teams. Many of them. Darren looked toward the door with fear. They are moving door to door, he whispered. They will reach you soon. Mark wiped sweat from his forehead and tried to think fast. Leary lay on the table, her small body stiff and weak, but her glowing marks were getting brighter again. Almost as if her body sensed danger too. We need to hide her, Mark said. Darren shook his head. Hide her? From soldiers trained to find anything? They can smell fear. They have scanners. Once they enter, it's over. Mark looked at the small storage closet, then under the table, then at the vents. None of it felt safe enough. Leary couldn't move on her own. She couldn't crawl. She couldn't even turn her head. Wherever they hid her, she would be completely exposed if found. The pounding footsteps grew louder. Darren whispered urgently, Mark, listen. There's an old maintenance passage under your floor. It was used many years ago. They do not know it exists. Mark's eyes widened. Where? Darren pointed to a metal hatch near the corner of the workshop, half covered by boxes and tools. Mark quickly moved the boxes aside and pulled the hatch open. Cold air rose from below. A narrow ladder led into darkness. That tunnel connects to the lower conduit path, Darren said. If you follow it, you can escape the patrol area. Mark grabbed a blanket and wrapped Leary gently. She didn't make a sound, but her breathing became faster, panicked. Her fingers tried to curl but failed. She was scared, trapped inside a body that would not listen to her. It's okay, Leary, Mark whispered. I'm taking you away from here. Darren stepped back, his voice shaking. Mark, if they see me helping you, they will take me too. I must leave. Mark nodded. He understood. Thank you for telling me the truth. Darren touched Mark's shoulder, once a rare gesture from an alien. Human, you are doing what our people never learned. You are protecting the weak. Be careful. He slipped out the back door and disappeared into the shadows. Mark climbed down the ladder, carefully with Leary held close against his chest. The tunnel smelled like rust and cold water. It was dark, but Leary's glowing skin lit the walls with a soft blue shimmer. Good, Mark whispered. You're helping me see. Above them, heavy boots stopped right outside the workshop door. A soldier shouted, Open! We are here for inspection. Mark climbed faster. The metal hatch above shook violently as the soldiers tried to force their way in. The echo of twisting metal rang through the tunnel. Leary's breathing grew rapid and uneven. Her glowing marks flickered like a weak signal. Hold on, Mark whispered. Just a little more. He reached the bottom of the ladder and started down the narrow tunnel. Thick pipes lined both sides, dripping cold water. The tunnel was just big enough for him to walk while carrying her. Behind them, there was a loud crash. The soldiers had broken into the workshop. Mark's heart raced. He pushed forward, stepping carefully but quickly. The tunnel twisted left, then right. Every sound felt louder in the dark tunnel. Mark's breathing. Leary's weak breaths, the distant thumping above. Suddenly, Leary's skin glowed brighter than ever. Blue lines crawled across the walls, lighting up ancient symbols Mark had never seen before. What is this place? He whispered. Leary blinked slowly, her eyes shining. It was as if she recognized the glowing markings around her. As if she belonged here. Mark continued moving until the tunnel opened into a wide maintenance hall filled with old machines and forgotten doors. Then a cold voice echoed behind him. Well. Human. Mark spun around. A tall alien soldier stood in the tunnel entrance, blocking the way back. His armor shimmered in the dim light. You took what does not belong to you, the soldier growled. Mark held Leary tighter. She's a child. She belongs to no one. The soldier stepped closer, raising his weapon. She was thrown away, he said. And so will you. Mark looked down at Larry. Her glowing symbols began to move again, fast. Like they were activating something deep in the walls. Something ancient. Something the soldier didn't expect. Asterisk. Mark stepped backward slowly, holding Leary close against his chest. The alien soldier blocked the only exit from the maintenance hall. His armor glowed with sharp red lights, and the weapon in his hand hummed with deadly energy. "You cannot run," the soldier said. His voice was calm, but his eyes were hard and cold. "Give me the child." Leary's glowing symbols pulsed rapidly, lighting up the walls around them. The air vibrated softly, almost like the room itself was waking up. Mark didn't understand why, but Leary's body seemed to be reacting to the ancient markings carved into the hull. Mark raised his voice. "She's alive. She's scared. Just let me take her somewhere safe." The soldier stepped closer. "She is defective. A mistake. Her survival is dangerous for us. She must be erased." Mark's arms tightened around Leary. "I'm not giving her to you." The soldier tilted his head. "Humans have strange attachments. This one will kill you." Mark didn't move. His heart pounded, but he held his ground. Suddenly, the glowing symbols on Leary's skin brightened so strongly that the hall filled with blue light. The soldier froze for a moment, confused. The walls responded with a soft humming sound, as if ancient machines were activating. "What is happening?" The soldier snapped. Mark didn't wait for an answer. With all his strength, he turned and sprinted toward a narrow side tunnel he hadn't noticed before, one that only revealed itself when the walls lit up. The soldier shouted and fired a bright shot. It hit the wall beside Mark, exploding metal fragments everywhere. Mark kept running. The tunnel was narrow and old. Pipes rattled overhead, and cold air rushed past his face. Leary was breathing fast against his chest, but her glowing symbols kept flickering, guiding him deeper inside. The soldier's footsteps thundered behind them. He yelled orders into a communicator. "Subject found. Human resistance. Seal all exits." Mark didn't know where the tunnel led, but he had no choice. He followed the glow on Leary's skin. The deeper they went, the more the ancient markings appeared on the walls, lines, shapes, and strange symbols that made no sense to him. The tunnel suddenly split into 3 paths. Mark stopped for a second, terrified. "Leary, which way?" The girl's eyes were half open. Her fingers twitched weakly, pointing toward the middle path. Mark ran. Behind them, the soldier reached the split. His heavy boots echoed closer and closer. He fired another shot. The beam flew past Mark's shoulder and burned into the floor. Mark pushed harder, his breath sharp and painful. The middle path opened into an old rail tunnel. Rusted metal tracks stretched into the darkness. Strange machines sat abandoned on both sides, covered in dust. Mark ducked behind one machine and held Leary close. The soldier entered the tunnel, scanning the shadows with his glowing eyes. Mark whispered, "Stay quiet, please." Leary couldn't move or speak, but she blinked once, understanding. The soldier stepped closer. Then the floor rumbled. A low sound came from deep below. Blue light leaked through cracks in the metal. Leary's glowing symbols flared again, brighter than ever before. The machines around them began to shift and open slowly, like breathing creatures waking up after centuries of sleep. The soldier stumbled back in shock. "What is this place?" The rail tunnel filled with humming energy. A round platform at the center lit up. It looked like an old elevator, ancient, huge, and covered in the same symbols as Leary. She reacted to it. Her skin glowed brighter, matching its energy. Mark understood instantly. "This is where you want me to take you," he whispered. Behind them, the soldier roared in anger and charged toward Mark. Mark sprinted toward the glowing platform. He jumped onto it with Leary in his arms. As soon as their feet touched the platform, blue energy exploded upward like a shield. The soldier crashed into it. Thrown backward violently, The platform shook, humming with rising power. Mark held Leary tight. "Please take us somewhere safe," he whispered. The platform began to descend into the unknown darkness below. Above them, the soldier screamed into his communicator. "They're heading into the ancient chambers. Seal everything. Stop them." But it was too late. Mark and Leary were already disappearing into the depths, into a forgotten place where answers waited. And danger too. The ancient platform carried Mark and Leary downward for a long time. The walls around them glowed with slow blue lines, moving like rivers of light. The air grew warmer, softer, almost peaceful. Mark held Leary close, feeling her small heart beating unevenly against his chest. "It's okay," he whispered. "We're going somewhere you trust. I'll keep you safe." Leary blinked weakly. The glow under her skin pulsed, answering to the chamber below like she was calling home. The platform finally stopped with a soft thud. Mark stepped off and looked around in awe. They had arrived in a huge underground hall larger than anything he had ever seen on Varine 9. The walls were smooth and curved, filled with ancient symbols that glowed like soft stars. The air smelled clean, fresh, unlike the dirty city above. At the center of the hall stood a round machine shaped like a cradle or a nest. It floated slightly above the ground, humming softly, as if waiting. Leary's skin glowed again. Brighter, stronger. Mark whispered, "This is what you wanted to reach, isn't it?" Leary's fingers twitched, tiny movements she had never made before. It was like her body recognized the place, like the hall called her name. Mark carried her to the floating cradle. The machine opened slowly, petals of metal moving like the wings of a flower. Soft blue mist rose from inside. He hesitated. "Will this help you? Or hurt you?" Leary's eyes shifted toward the cradle. A tear rolled down her cheek, one of fear, but also of hope. "I'll trust you," Mark whispered. He placed her inside. The moment her body touched the cradle, the entire hall came alive. Light shot through the walls. Symbols shifted, like moving water. The floor vibrated softly. The cradle closed gently around Liri. Mark stepped back, eyes wide. "What's happening?" Blue beams scanned her small body from head to toe. Her skin glowed brighter and brighter until Mark could barely see her. A soft humming sound filled the hall, deep and peaceful, nothing like the hostile machines above the city. It sounded like healing. Yet Mark was terrified. "What if it's hurting her?" he whispered, taking a step forward. A shockwave pushed him back gently, not to harm him, but to keep him from interfering. He watched helplessly as the cradle filled with light. He remembered the old mechanic's words. Her people destroy the weak, but the old ones, they healed them. Was this one of the ancient systems? Something from before the current rulers? Minutes passed like hours. Mark paced, gripping his hair, unable to tear his eyes away from the glowing cradle. Then the humming slowed. The light faded. The cradle opened. Mark froze. Leary lay inside, breathing gently, no longer struggling, no longer shaking. The glowing marks across her skin were now steady and bright. Her toes moved, then her fingers. Slow, weak, but real movement. Mark's heart nearly stopped. "Leary, can you?" She opened her eyes fully. They were clearer than before, stronger, brighter. With great effort, she lifted her hand. Only a few centimeters, but it was a miracle. You're moving," Mark whispered, tears forming in his eyes. "You're really moving." Leary's small lips parted. She whispered her first clear word, barely a breath. Thank." Her voice broke, but it was real. She could speak. Mark leaned closer, overwhelmed. "Leary, you're alive. You're healing." But before he could celebrate, the hall's lights flashed red. Danger. The ancient system sensed something above. The soldiers, the rulers. Something big was coming. A deep, old voice echoed from the walls. as if part of the chamber itself. Royal air detected. Restoration incomplete. Protection sequence required. Mark's eyes widened. Protection sequence? What does that mean? Leary blinked at him, still weak, but now more alive than ever. The ground shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. The enemy had found the entrance. Mark grabbed Leary from the cradle. "We need to move," he said, voice shaking. Leary's glowing skin brightened again, guiding him toward another hidden doorway. The soldiers were coming, and now Leary wasn't helpless anymore, but she wasn't strong enough to fight. Not yet. The underground chamber shook again as dust drifted from the ceiling. The loud rumble of armored boots echoed through the tunnels above. The soldiers had found the ancient entrance. They were coming fast. Mark held Leary in his arms. Even though she could move a little now, she was still weak from years of paralysis. Her glowing symbols flashed in warning, reflecting her fear. "It's okay," Mark whispered. "I won't let them take you." Leary's fingers lightly gripped Mark's shirt, a tiny movement, but full of trust. A metal door appeared ahead, shaped by long-forgotten technology. Blue light pulsed around its edges, reacting to Leary's presence. "That's our way out," Mark said. He stepped toward the door, but before he reached it, the heavy sound of metal grinding echoed behind him. The soldiers had arrived. A squad of armored aliens marched in with weapons raised. Their leader stepped forward, a tall, sharp-eyed officer with silver armor. His voice was cold. "Human, you have stolen what does not belong to you." Mark stood firm. "She's a living child. She belongs to no one." The officer aimed his weapon at Leary. "That creature was thrown away. She is defective. She brings shame to the royal line." Leary's eyes filled with fear. Her body started shaking again. Mark stepped protectively in front of her. "She's not defective. She's alive. She's strong. And she deserves to live." The officer sneered. "You think your human kindness matters? You know nothing about us." Before Mark could answer, something unexpected happened. The walls around the chamber began to glow with blinding blue light. The symbols on the floor moved like waves. The air vibrated with a deep hum. Leary's skin shone brighter than ever. The symbols on her body pulsed like a heartbeat. The officer stepped back in shock. Impossible. The ancient system. It recognized her. The ground shook again, and a deep voice, older than any living alien, echoed through the chamber. Royal air fully identified. Protection protocol activated. Mark tightened his arms around Leary. "What does that mean?" Suddenly, pillars of blue energy rose from the floor, surrounding Mark and Leary like a shield. The soldiers fired their weapons, but the energy blocked every shot. The beams dissolved into sparks before they reached the shield. The officer shouted orders. "Break through! Destroy the human if you must, but take the child." But the ancient system ignored him. The energy lifted Mark and Leary slightly above the floor. Leary's body glowed brighter, her eyes shining like stars. She slowly raised her hand, her first true movement of strength. Her voice, still soft but clear, filled the chamber. "Stop." The soldiers froze. Her next words shook the entire chamber. "I am not your shame." Mark's eyes widened. She spoke with courage he had never seen in someone so young. Leary continued, her voice trembling but strong. "I am your heir. I am your future. And I was saved by a human you tried to ignore." The soldiers stood stunned. None dared to fire again. The officer lowered his weapon slowly. His face changed from anger to fear, to respect. I looked at Mark with gentle eyes. "You lifted me up," she whispered. "You didn't throw me away." Mark felt tears sting his eyes. "I'd never throw you away, Leary. You're not broken. You're special." The blue energy faded. gently placing them back on the floor. Slowly, one by one. The soldiers kneeled, first one, then another, then the entire squad. They bowed their heads. "Royal Air," the officer said quietly. "Forgive us." Leary wiped her tears. She looked small, but powerful. Her voice was soft. "Do not hurt the human. He is my guardian." Mark stared in shock. "Guardian?" The officer nodded deeply. "As you command." The ancient chamber lights faded into a calm glow. The danger was gone. Leary rested her head on Mark's shoulder, exhausted but safe. Mark carried her toward the glowing door, the new path ahead. As they walked, the officer spoke one last time. "Human, your kindness saved more than a child today. You saved our future." Mark held Leary close, and together, they stepped toward the world above, a world where a human's gentle hands had changed an entire empire forever.